saying what our thought process is. That's all.
You mean our thought process is more from it should be more from Ahava than from Yira?
Yeah, Moshe understands me. I like him. He likes me. You know.
Sounds like a Barney nigga.
I mean, Aaron's wife might get upset if he has too many donuts. So Moshe's not going to get upset. He say, Aaron might say, you can have a donut. It's okay. You work hard all year. You fly to Miami every week. Have a couple of donuts. It's not a big deal.
Aaron, I'm holding strong. The sesame donuts came in. I'm holding strong.
Yeah, okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying using it as a muscle. That's all.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah, there's such a concept. Meaning nobody's keeping traffic laws out of Ahava for the government. Right? That's what you're saying. Right? When you're keeping it, you're keeping it straight Yira. Right. But I guess he's pointing out that you can't be too chummy though. Okay. You gotta hope that there's a hava from I'm saying you have to have some you're in a hava. That's part of the juggling that we have to do, right? Al Tiyadin. Okay, so let's see. So we're on new parak, yeah.
You know, I mean, Jesse helps people. He teaches people. He saves lives. So he has an extra shot every other day. So Mara, what's the problem?
Well, I mean, Jesse doesn't look at it as a problem anyway. So
I'm not saying Jesse.
It's more of a solution.
There might be other people who look at it as a problem. I'm not getting.
I mean, so we hope that Hashem does overlook our misdeeds, but from our vantage point, from where we're coming from, we have to. He's just saying, like, don't. Just realize that you got to give yourself, you got to treat the Rabban Shem like a little bit of a king, so not to take advantage, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so let's see the new parak. I don't know why this is a new parak. It's mamash a continuation of the last parak.
Yeah.
All right. So I just wonder who made the prakim in Mishnayos. That had to have been Rebbe, and that wasn't the goyim like it is in Tanakh, right?
Yeah.
L'chayra. And the Chumash, right? Yes, Goyim made the prakim of the Chumash, and yes, believe it or not, yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. It's just a continuation. Okay, so let's see. So hannoder min hiyrek, right? We have a very basic machlokes that between the Rebbe Akiva and the Chachamim. So hannoder min hiyrek. So somebody makes a neder that he's not going to eat vegetables, right? That should be a pretty common neder, right? Only meat, right? Because hannoder min hiyrek, mutter bedluin. He's allowed to have gourds, meaning we're saying that gourds are not considered vegetables. Rebbe Akiva says, what do you mean? Of course, gourds are considered vegetable. So what's this based on? Some of the Rebbe Akiva, they told the Rebbe Akiva, somebody could tell his shliach, kachli yerek, take for me a vegetable, right? You tell a guy like, well, this is mamish. I could use naftali for this one because this happens a few times a week, right? Not necessarily for vegetables, but he does a lot of the odd and end shopping for us, Baruch Hashem, and we thank him for that. But he'll call up and say, okay, they don't have this, they don't have that. What do they have, right? So that's mamish what the Machlokes is. Let's see. So they said to Akiva, he says, take for me a vegetable. And he comes back and says, they only have dluin. So the question like this is, does that mean that dluim are similar to vegetables? Or does it mean that it's a totally out of left field? Meaning if you send somebody into a grocery store and say, I need donuts for Hanukkah, and the guy comes back and says, they don't have donuts, but they have steak. Right? So you're going to go, look, guys, I'm a sugar, right? There's no shaykhs, but the guy comes back and says, they don't have donuts, but they have good danishes. That's already in the same ballpark. Right? So the question is that considered included or not? Meaning if he comes back and says they have gourds, so would that be considered? So considered vegetable. So they're telling Rebbe Akiva, a person will come back and say, dluim. So therefore, dluin are not included in vegetables. Because if they're included in vegetables, he would have just bought the gluim, right? Again, he's the guy. You send somebody to the grocery store. You say, "Get me vegetables." He comes back and says they don't have vegetables. They have dluim. So then clearly dluim is not vegetables, because if dluim was vegetables, he would have just bought you the dluim, right? That's what they're tying to Rebbe Akiva. So Amr Lahem. So he said back to them, Kein Dover, is that the way? It's this Kein Dover. I'm sorry. This is the way it is. Ay Shema Omer, Hu Laimatzasi Elakidnius. If he would say, would he come back and say, didn't find only kidneys? No, because kidneys has nothing to do with vegetables. So he would never come back and say that he's that he found kidneys. The kidneys ain't a bechlal yerek. No, dluim is at least has some sort of connection with vegetables. Kidneys has no connection. So therefore, if you see that he said that he has gluin, that means it's in the parsha, let's call it that. It's in the parsha of vegetables. Yeah. So again, it's a classic machlokes. So each one of them, mamish looks at it two different ways. Again, the Tanakama is saying that when a guy comes back and says they don't have vegetables, they have diluim. So that must be that diluim is not vegetables. Otherwise, why wouldn't he just buy the diluim? And Rebbe Akiva is saying no. Nobody's going to come back and say that they found they don't have vegetables, but they have kidneys, beans, because kidneys there's no relation between kidneys and vegetables. But diluim, the reason why he's coming back and saying they have diluim is because it is part of vegetables. So that's the machlokes. We'll see more in the Gemara. But either way, according to all opinions, for aser b'pula mitzri lach, it's aser to if you made a neder against vegetables, then you're not allowed to have fresh beans from Mitzrayim. But mutter b'yavesh, dry beans you are allowed, because dry beans are not considered part of vegetables, but wet ones are. I'm assuming dried means just they're dried out. Yeah, so that's the Mishnah. So hanouder min hiyrek. So you make a neder from the hiyrek. So the Gemara says, "V'ham min hiyrek nodar." This guy made a neder from hiyrek. Right? How are you going to say that it's included? Your gourds, diluin are included in hiyrek. He said vegetables, right? So from the Rashi and the Ran, from the Mefarish and the Ran, it seems like they're we're talking about where it's like a fruit, where a gourd is treated a little bit like a fruit. But either way, he's saying, how does Rebbe Akiva include gourds as hiyrek? So Amar Ula ba'omer yarki kedera. He didn't say hiyrek. He said vegetables that go into a pot. So once he said vegetables that go into a pot, so gourds can be included in that. The Gemara asks, but that can't be either. But maybe it means vegetables that dafka get eaten in a pot. To which the Ran says, or the Mefarish says, it's talking about garlic, onions, right? Meaning garlic and onions is what used to give to a pot of food. Gourd you don't use to give flavor. Right? So maybe that's what he meant by his neder, and he didn't mean gourds. So the Gemara answers no, but Omer Yerek hamizbashal b'kedera alai. Where he says that the vegetables that get cooked in pots, I'm making a neder. So that for sure gourds are included, because that's how you cook gourds. You cook gourds in a pot. So therefore that's where, according to Rebbe Akiva, gourds are included. And according to the Chachamim, they're going to say no, gourds is not part of the vegetables. Okay, so what's the machlokes? But my komiflagi. Rabbanan Savri Komisl Tzarech Shlicha Lemluchayala. Anything that the shliach, meaning the guy you sent to the grocery to, he needs to ask. Lamlucha here means to ask. He needs to ask to see if that's what you want from the grocery, meaning you send him to get donuts. And he finds danishes. So if that's included in donuts, meaning he doesn't even have to ask, he'll just buy the danishes. So then that would be included in the neder if the guy makes a neder against donuts. But if he would have to ask the guy who sent him, does he want danishes? Then that's not included in the neder, right? Which I think danishes are not considered in the neder, right? So that's what the Rabbanon holds. So again, anything that the shliach would need to ask the person who sent him to the grocery store, whether that's included lav minahu, then that's not considered that same min. Rabbi Akiva Savar, no, minehu. Anything that the shliach thinks that he has to ask, that means that it has to be in the parsha of the vegetable that he or the vegetables or the donuts, right? Whichever example you want to use, right? Again, Rabbi Akiva
So you have to
saying,
depend on the shliach?
yeah.
Wouldn't it depend on the shliach?
Naftali line,
Like,
maybe.
I'll ask a question before you do. I'll ask a question before you would.
Because you're a good shliach, right? No, but I'm saying when Naftali, you're not going to call and say, you wanted donuts, but they have steak. So that's for sure.
Correct.
Steak would be
That I'm
included in
not.
donuts.
Right. Okay, fine.
Right. If I made a neder against donuts, then steak is not included. But Rebbe Akiva is saying that if you would call up and ask, but they have danishes, if that's the case, then Rebbe Akiva says that means that danishes is included in donuts, right? And the Tanakama says no, it's not. Yeah.
No, finish what you're saying, don't you?
No, I'm saying no. That's unfinished. That's
No, so
right.
I mean, you keep on talking about donuts, so I'm thinking of, can they put enough glop on top of the donuts that it takes it out of a mazoinus and makes it a shahako?
I don't think so, because anytime mazinus is part of it, it's in the mixture. There's a little bit of mazinus that you could see that's automatic mazinus, no matter how much shahako.
Okay.
Even if the donut taka becomes just a handle?
Fine.
No, once the donut only becomes a way to put the food into your mouth, then it would lose its mazinus. I mean, if you make a little donut that looks like a teaspoon and you put a spoon, and then but that's but anyways, either way, that in the case you're saying, if you put a lot of this custard or chocolate on top of the donut, it's still included in donut.
Okay,
right?
fine.
So miilah, that would be if a guy made a neder against which I'm thinking strongly that I should do, right? So, but that would include all these types of donuts. Whether it includes danishes, that's the Machlokes in this Mishna. Would a shliach who I would send to the grocery store to get a donut, would they call me and say to me, no, they don't have donuts, but they have danishes? Right? So Rabbi Akiva says if he's going to call you to ask you that, that means it's in the family of donuts. Right? But the Tanakama says no, it's not. It's not in the family of donuts. Right? That's why you're asking about it. So that's the Yisraelis of Machlokes. But Abaya then says, even though Rebbe Akiva says that it's included in the neder, but you're not getting malchus. You're not, I'd go to the right. But you're going so Abaya is saying these moeded you wouldn't get malchus. Right, fine. Now there's an interesting thing here that the Ran says a couple of times, in that vegetables are normally eaten raw and diluin are not. Yeah, and that's what he learns, is maybe the nafkamina between why the Tanakama holds that we said before that the diluin could be considered fruit, but the Ran brings it a couple of times that diluin get eaten raw. I'm sorry, diluin only get eaten cooked. Vegetables get eaten raw, and that would be the difference, right? And that makes a big difference if it would be bishalakum also, right? We know that when a guy cooks for you, that cannot be eaten raw. If it can be eaten raw, then they're allowed to cook it for you. So vegetables would be mutter to cook because they get eaten raw. But diluin, you would not be able to let a guy cook diluin for you because you don't eat them raw. Yeah, fine.
Isn't that
Okay,
the chilik in Office Brachas also? Which bracha you make?
Well, I mean,
Hadam or shahakol?
yes. Well, that's a little bit more. It's a little bit more. Not. It's not so pashut, right? But trying to think. Well, onions, right? So onions, even though nowadays maybe not, but onions officially are
Depends on purple
shahakol.
or other.
And when you cook it, right? When you cook it, it becomes hadama. It depends on the l'chara. That's the same nafkamina. I mean, I don't know what bracha did they say you make on gourds. Raw gourd would be shahakol.
It's not eaten raw. Shahakol.
Oh, yeah, that's a
It's
good
also
point.
nechel chai is hadama. If it's ain't a nechel chai, it's shahakol.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a good point.
What are you saying? Potatoes are shahako?
If you eat them raw.
You never
You
eat
need a
them
raw
raw.
potato.
You never
Right.
eat
That's
them.
the
why it's
point.
hadama.
That's
Right, That's
why.
why it's hadama.
Oh, that's why it's Adama. All right. I didn't
Potato would be
understand what you said.
shahakol.
Fine. Okay.
So then why
In the
isn't raw
dinim of
horseradish
Hilchos
shahakol?
brachos,
No one eats that normally.
What?
No one eats raw
Horseradish?
horseradish on a normal basis.
You
that's
eat it
another. So I
cooked.
don't know what is it.
No, people grind it. They add all sorts of stuff. They don't bite it like we do a
Still
carrot.
raw. It's still
Right, I'm saying
raw.
that's raw. So, but no one eats it that way.
Jesse,
Once a
the
year.
bracha.
You eat it raw by the Seder. No.
Right, but I'm saying that's once a year. No one does that normally.
When else do you eat
Jesse,
that kind of horseradish? You never eat it only by the Seder. The horse,
Jesse, the bracha on horse.
the crane you have by the fish Friday night, it's not the same thing. They mixed in all kinds of stuff. The horseradish you only eat raw once a year.
Right.
And that's the.
By the way-
and there's a reason you make the hadama on karpas, not on mar.
I'm
You
getting
wouldn't
a
make
little-
hadam on that anyway. You would make mechaya mason maybe.
Not when they start merging. By the way, Jesse, the bracha on horseradish is shahakol. I don't know when the last time I ate horseradish when I didn't wash. Right? Okay, guys, I think you're eating up my bandwidth, so I'm gonna have to. Hold on. I was losing the oil. Am I there now?
I hear
Right.
you. I hear you.
Good. Okay, because the screen keeps freezing. Okay. Fine. So we're saying the I think Gemara. So Tanan also. Yeah, can I still be heard?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. So Tanan also shliach sha'asa shlichusai. So we know that we have a din that normally is ain't shliach l'dvar aveir. If you send somebody to go do an aveira for you, so if the guy is your shliach and he does the aveira for you, he's the one that gets the aveira, not you, right? Because he has his own das and he's supposed to listen to Hashem before he listens to you, right? But by miilah is when you by mistake use something from kachim. So by miilah, what's the case by miilah? You send a guy and you tell him go serve my guest food, and by mistake he serves them the miilah. So there we say that they're yesh shliach l'dvar avera, right? And the guy who was over, the guy who sent the shliach is the one who's over, right? So now we're going to say the same thing applies in this situation with what did he send him to eat? So let's see. Tanan Osam, we learned over there in the Mishnah. The guy did his shlichus, right? Meaning his owner, the owner of the house, sent him and said, "Go downstairs and get me a bottle of wine and serve it to my guests." Right? And he goes and he gets that bottle of wine, and that bottle of wine ended up being from Hektish. So who's on the hook for this? So because if he goes and gets the actual wine, so he's on the hook. The balabayas the balabayas is on the hook because the shliach did his proper shlichus. Lo yasa shlichusai, but if the guy goes downstairs and he doesn't see wine, but he sees orange juice, so he brings up the orange juice, then the shliach is going to be over. Then shliach mal. Right? Again, if the shliach follows directions, the guy that sent him is going to be over. If the other one does not send him, so then if the shliach does what the guy didn't send him for and he gets something else, then the shliach's over. Man Tana. So who's the Tana that says this? So what it says, Amar Rav Chisda mas nisan de like Rav Akiva. That Mishnah is not like Rav Akiva. The Tanan, Ketzad, what would be the case? Amar Loi, 10 basar la'orchim. He tells his Eved, go give meat to the guests. For nasan lehem kaved, and he gives them liver. 10 kaved, he tells them give them liver, but nasan lehem basar, he gives them meat. Shliach mal, so the shliach is over on miilah, right? Because we're going to say that liver and meat is the same thing. Be Rebbe Akiva, but if it's Rebbe Akiva, Hamar Rebbe Akiva, kol milsa the mimlach ala shliach, anything that a shliach would have to ask about, minehu, it's considered that same min. So if that's the case, limo balabayas, because we're saying if you're going to say that liver and meat is the same thing, so then let the balabayas be moil. Meaning, why are we saying it's the same thing? Because Rebbe Akiva is saying he would have to ask. The guy would have to ask if he has, if he wants liver, if there's no meat, or vice versa. But loymil limol shliach, and the shliach should not be over on miilah. Now, basically, we're saying that in this case, if the guy was sent to get meat and he only got liver, so then it's not the same. It's not the same thing, and he would have to ask about it. Even though in this mission it doesn't say anything about the shliach asking, so that the Mefarish already says it's even without that. With the regular derech would be that if you send the guy to the butcher to get you meat, and he would call you if they only have liver, which I think would be the case, right? I imagine somebody sends you to get meat from the butcher, you come back with liver. I imagine that's not a good thing, right? The person will not be happy. So therefore, according to Rebbe Akiva, it should be, according to Tanakama, it's not the same thing, but according to Rebbe Akiva, it is the same thing, because they're at least going to ask you about liver, which means that it's in the ballpark of meat. So l'chara, that Mishnah is not like Rebbe Akiva. Amar Abaya, on the bottom line, Amar Abaya, filu tema Rebbe Akiva. You could even say that Mishnah is going according to Rebbe Akiva onto the Amud Beis. Miilah miilah Rebbe Akiva, isn't Rebbe Akiva miilah the tzarech imluche? That for these type of things, when you're making a shliach to do something for you, then you have to ask on everything. By miilah, you have to, if the guy is asking you to go serve something to other people, it's one thing if he's asking you a regular case of that, then the same thing. Meaning he's saying it's a different din of net. Stop making guy a shliach it's so therefore it doesn't mean that it's not like Rebbe Akiva, right? Again, when you guys send the guy out to get the wine for the guests, he should have asked. He should have asked. Even according to Rebbe Akiva, he should have asked, and it's a different entity. So therefore, it's considered different, and that's why the shliach is over on miilah. But for nedarim, it's much looser. It's a much looser. It's more broad, I guess. Broad is the right word. Fine. It mashmitz made the Rava. So they said this whole thing over in front of Rava. Amar lahain shaper Amar Nachmani. Nachmani said a good word. He said he likes Nachmani's teretz. Nachmani is Abaya, right? So, and the reason why he's called Nachmani is because he was brought up by Rabbi Bar Nachmani, so therefore they called him Nachmani, even though that really wasn't his name. I think so. Mantana the Polyglot Rebbe Akiva. So who disagrees with Rebbe Akiva? Meaning we have a Tanakam against Rebbe Akiva. We know Rebbe Akiva holds that if the person has to ask about it, that means he automatically is saying that food has to be in the ballpark of what he was asked for, right? But who's the one that disagrees and says it's not in the ballpark? So Rav Shimon Gamliel, it's Rav Shimon Gamliel. The Tanya is one of the Brayso. Somebody makes a neder from basar. So what's he aser? Aser b'chol mine basar. He's not allowed to eat any type of basar. Aser b'roish. He's not allowed to eat the head, uberaglayim, and in the feet, and
No, mutter.
bakana, and the
Mutter.
Oh, what are you saying? Another min basar. Aser b'chol mine basar. Aser b'roish. No, I'm saying that's the next one, Rabbi.
I'm sorry.
3 lines before that. Yeah, I'm sorry before that. Thank you. So, anyways, again, so Rav Shimon Gamliel, the Tanya, Anoidim in Basar. Somebody makes a neder from Basar. Also, b'chol mine Basar. He's also with all types of Basar. Also, b'raish, uberaglayim, the kana is the trachea, kaved is the liver, uberlevin in the heart, ubereifus. He's also, when you say meat, you're including chicken too. Or fowl, I guess. So mutter b'basar dagim v'chagavim, but basar dagim and chagavim, that's not included in meat, meaning fish and grasshoppers, which obviously we all know that there are grasshoppers that are kosher. So fish and grasshoppers are not considered part of it. That's the Tanakam. Shimon Gamliel Aimer, Anaydim in Basar, Aser b'chol mine basar. He's also with all types of basar. Mutter b'raish. He's mutter b'raish. Uberaglayim, ubekana, ubekaved, ubelev. So he holds that there's a much, it's not as broad, the definition of what meat is. Ubereifus, and he's also mutter b'reifus. Ve'ein tzarich loymar, and it goes without saying, basar dagim v'chagavim, that's going to be mutter. So you see that Rav Shimon Gamliel holds that all these things are meat. They're just not the exact type of meat, so therefore it's not included. The intestines are not basar, and anybody who eats them is not considered human. You eat the inside, like kishka, I guess. If you eat kishka, you're not considered, well, kishka's from chicken, but if you eat, I don't know what, Jerusalem mix, what do they call it? That all junk from the, don't they have that? I don't know, whatever. So the Gemara says, what does that mean?
Salami.
I guess salami would be. I guess salami, yeah. Salami, hot dogs, whatever it is.
Gershon Abbott told me when Mr. Lux when his in-laws were alive and they had the butcher business, he never brought the Enoch hot dogs. He brought all kinds of stuff from the place for them to eat, but he never brought them hot dogs to the Enoch.
Well, it's because it's so unhealthy.
Yeah, it's all the stuff they swept off the floor. You make hot dogs with. They don't.
That's gewaldig. Okay, so that's exactly what the Gemara is talking about here, I guess, right? So you're not a person. So what does it mean? Sean, please. What it's saying is that it's those that eat it, kibasar, it's for sales. La bar inish is not a bar inish. Meaning if you eat the insides, meaning that's how you buy. I don't know exactly that way. Meaning if you have a choice, it seems like when you have a choice to buy real meat or to buy the intestines or hot dogs, and you buy hot dog, then that's not the smart thing to do. Meaning you can, if you have no choice, and that's the last meat. I think that's what it means. If you have no choice, it's the last meat left in the butcher, and you want to have meat, okay, so then it's no problem to have the meat. But if you're given a choice, you eat the junk as opposed to the real meat, then that's a problem, right? So the Gemara says, Mishna basar oif l'tanakama. Why is it that according to the Tanakama, chicken is not included in meat? The aser, why? The avid shlicha the miilah, because the shliach is going to ask about it, right? Meaning, if you send somebody to the butcher to get you meat, and all they have left is chicken, so they're going to call you up and say, they only have chicken. Do you want chicken? So according to the Tanakama, that means that it's not part of meat. Otherwise, the guy wouldn't have to call you. But basar dagim nami over shlicha. But fish would also ask about that. Why?
Is this where the raya is from, where some people say you don't have to wait as long for the chicken?
I was wondering if that's part of it, But I mean, I don't know if the people. Does anybody
I
really?
know we're not. I know we're not knowing
long?
like that, but there's a sheet that holds like that, right?
Yeah, l'chayra, that's well, the one. I mean, we hold that oif is a takana atu basar. Yes, you're right. We believe that we say it's not considered basar, right? The real gezerah was on actual meat, not on chicken,
Right.
and the only reason is because chicken looks like meat,
I wonder
right?
if this is a riot
Yeah.
to that, maybe.
L'chayra, this is a right, 100%. Right?
Why are we considering it in the same ballpark of meat? Maybe he's just offering it as a different choice.
Like Yaakov said before. If
So
you
that's
want donuts,
good
he's
for the
not going to ask if you
Machlokes,
want.
but that's not included.
What do you mean? If there's
Meaning,
no,
if he's already asking,
if there's no
he has to
meat,
already ask you.
if my wife says go to the store and buy meat, and then I say there's no meat, do you want fish? So I'm putting fish and meat in the same thing.
According to the Tanakama, if you have to call up and ask, then that's already not included in the same thing. But according to Rebbe Akiva, it is included in the same thing. That's good with the Machlokes. But the Gemara is asking here that the Gemara is asking, well, you're saying that chicken is not considered meat because the guy would have to call up and ask, right? The Gemara is saying now, well, fish also, because let's say they don't have chicken. So what's his next option? He's going to say, but they have fish, right? Do you want fish? Meaning you go down the list for things that are in the
So 1 second. So according to Rebbe
ballpark of
Akiva,
that thing. So we do know that, yeah, by
so according to
yeah.
so according to Rebbe Akiva, if you make a neder on chicken, you're making a neder on fish also?
That's what the Gemara is asking now.
I mean, in Davis,
actually not-
if I'm hungry, you're going to pick something at the end of the day. If you have to ask, I understand the Manyama, if you have to ask, it's not included. But according to Manyama, that if you have to ask, it's still included. If you make a neder on any food, you're always going to get to something.
No, because no. Meaning, I think the way I'm understanding it is, how far do you stretch eating flesh of something that was alive? Am I reading too much into this?
Yeah,
Meaning, what are the three things that we eat that are
I'm
alive?
asking you, what's the comparison of one flesh to another flesh? Does that mean I can have flesh of a grasshopper? I mean,
So all the
Yaakov,
opinions
1
that
second.
both sheets said.
Clearly by the taste is very visible what's different. Chicken doesn't taste like a cowboy steak.
Yeah, okay, with the Chachamim, we're a little bit concerned with that, but yeah, that's true. That's true, but the bottom line is would you eat it instead? So if you would, so then maybe that's included in meat, right? So everybody was saying that fish, according to all opinions, fish and grasshoppers, right? That's what we had said, fish and grasshoppers?
Yeah.
Yeah, fish and grasshoppers are not included in meat. That's according to all shittas.
I mean, why is it? Yeah, why is it?
Again, the Gemara is asking, according to the first shot, who says that oif is included in meat. The Gemara is asking, according to the first shita, not Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that oif is not considered meat. According to the first shita, that oif is considered meat, right? So why is it considered meat? Because that's Rebbe Akiva's shita, that if somebody's going to ask you, if you were sent to go get meat, and then the guy's going to ask you, if they don't have meat, do you want chicken? That means it's in the ballpark of meat, right? So the Gemara is going to ask, well, if that's the case, the next thing, if they don't have chicken, they're going to ask you if they have fish. They're not going to ask you if they have matzah or donut, that they have matzah or donuts. They're going to say fish. Fish is the next thing. So why isn't fish also a replacement for and what do you call it? Fish is a replacement for chicken, and chicken is a replacement for meat, meaning just go down the line, right? That's what it's saying. Naftali is asking, okay, so then if they don't have any of those, then you want to eat something, otherwise you're going to die. But I don't believe that would be the case. Then you're just getting into a totally different min. Meaning by chasanas, sometimes you get offered, you want meat, you want chicken, you want fish. Right? They don't say you want meat, chicken, fish, or pasta.
Yes,
At least
please.
I don't think. What? You want all the above. I understand, but they're not giving you 4 options. It's those 3, I think. And then they're not adding pasta to it. So those are, I guess it's under the umbrella of something that was alive, but grasshoppers are not included. Either way, that's what the Gemara's kasha is. So let's see again. Mishna basar oif the Tanakama the aser David shlicha the miilah that the shliach is going to ask about it. Basar dagam nami David shlicha. Fish the shliach will also. Do you like mishkach bisra? If he doesn't find basar miilah, he's going to ask the Omar, and this is repetitive. The Omar Eli mishkachna bisra. I see dagim. If I'm not going to find basar, so then I'll bring you fish. The litzer should be also. So Amar Abaya can go shake his dam the lo yochel dagim. A very interesting answer. Abaya says we're talking about the Tanakama's case is talking about where the guy just had bloodletting, so he can't possibly, and then he makes a neder against no meat, right? So therefore, he's never going to eat fish because fish is unhealthy, right? Meaning he never meant. I'm sorry, I said it the wrong way. When this guy just did bloodletting, and then he said, "I'm not having meat." I guess he took blood. They told him you got a high cholesterol, right? So he said, "Okay, I'm making a neder from no meat." So did he mean fish or not? So we're saying he couldn't possibly mean fish as part of his neder because he wouldn't be eating fish anyways, because fish is unhealthy after you take your blood. So therefore, he couldn't possibly have meant that he's making another not to eat fish because he wouldn't have eaten fish anyways. Right? So that's the case, a very specific case. The Gemara says, then birds he shouldn't eat either, fowl, because fowl also messes you up. The mesukar ba'achel, somebody who has bloodletting on the shoulder, ba'achel bisra de tzafra, and then he goes and he eats tzipayra. I'm sorry, that's probably the way to say it. The meat of a tzipar of a bird. Parach libe ketzafra. His heart will I don't know exactly what this is. Will I don't know what the medical term is, but the heart will fluctuate, I guess, because of it. So it's clearly not healthy to eat chicken after you have blood either. Vitanya ain't makizan, and we also learned you can't have a
Exactly. It means like
you
his
can't have
blood pressure, and that type of stuff.
Probably like right, but that means that you're not. It's not healthy to have birds either. So why is bird considered part of the neder? Right? And the Tanya ain't makis and loyal talking, loyal loifus, loyal basar meliach. You can't make a kaza, not on fish, not on birds, and not on salty meat. The Tanya, we learned in the Brayso, hikis dam, loy yoichel, loy chalav, like vina. If you have bloodletting, you shouldn't eat milk or cheese, v'loy beitzim, not eggs, v'loy shachlayim, and not cress, v'loy oifes, and not fowl, v'loy basar meliach, and not salty meat either. So whatever it is, you see very clear that salty meat, chicken is not healthy either. So how come if this guy made a neder right after his blood was let, did bloodletting, and he said it can't possibly mean that fish is included because he would never be eating fish anyways. So why are we saying that chicken is included? Because he would never be eating chicken either because it's unhealthy. So when I answer Shani, no, there is a way to eat chicken after having your blood taken, and that is when you if you boil it, then it's a problem. It's not a problem, sorry, then it's not a problem to eat. So therefore that would be included in the neder. Abaya has a different, unique neder that we're talking about. Abaya Omar, kegoin, the karven le eine. We're talking about where he has pain in his eyes. The dogim koshen le nayim, fish is bad for the eyes. So when he made this neder, he was having an issue with eyes, and therefore, since he had issues with eyes, he for sure did not mean he wasn't going to eat fish anyway. So therefore, it's not included in his neder. So Gemara says, "Ihachi achel dogim." So then let him eat fish. The Amar Shmuel nun samach ayin stands for nun sama leinayim. Stands for a fish is sama means medicine. Fish is medicine to the eyes. So the Gemara is reading a kasha. You just said that fish is no good for the eyes. This this price, Shmuel is saying that it is healthy for the eyes. The Gemara answers, no, that's not true. Ahu soif uchla. When you're at the end of your disease, then fish is healthy, right? But before you're near the end of the sickness, then fish is not healthy, right? So that's what we're saying. So basically saying when somebody doesn't feel well, then fish is bad for him. Once he starts feeling better, then fish is good for him. So here we're talking about where a guy made a neder when his eyes were no good. So he knows he's not going to be eating fish. So when he made a neder against meat, fish is automatically included, right? Now, Rabbaran, right, with this is you can't make this up with nedarim. What's the word for, what is uchla here? The last word on the top, what does uchla mean? Looking at this word, it's not eating, right? Uchla. No, it doesn't mean that. It means the sickness here. Here, the word uchla, when we're talking about what you're allowed to eat, what you're not allowed to eat, means sickness. Okay, that's part of nedarim. That's part of nedarim. Anyways, all right. I appreciate everybody tuning in early. Have yourselves a lichtig in Hanukkah and enjoy.
Shliach.
Yeah. Oh, Akiva, you're there. All right.
I'm always here, whenever I'm here.
All right. Happy to have you. All right, fine. Have yourself a good night.
Shkara, have a good night. Enjoy the party.
Thank you. Goodbye.